to figure out how kids coped with challenge, I gave 10-year-olds some problems that were a little too difficult for them. Some of them reacted in a shockingly positive way. They said things like, "I love a challenge," or "I was hoping this would be informative." They understood that their abilities could grow through their hard work. They had what I call a growth mindset. But other children, for them it was tragic, catastrophic. From their more fixed mindset perspective, their core intelligence had been tested and devastated. So, what did they do next? In one study, after a failure on a test, they said they'd cheat next time instead of study more. In another study, they found someone who did worse than they did so they could feel better. And in many studies, we found they run from difficulty. Let's look at how that looks in the brain. Processing the error shows up in red. If you look at the fixed mindset brain on the left, nothing is happening. But if you look at the growth mindset brain on the right, they're processing the error deeply, learning from it, and correcting it. So, how are we raising our kids? Are they focused on the next A or test score instead of dreaming big, instead of thinking about what they want to be and how they want to contribute to society? And if they are too focused on A's and test scores, are they going to carry this with them into the future? Maybe. So, what can we do? First, we can praise wisely. Our research shows that when we praise kids for the process they engage in, their hard work, their strategies, their focus, their perseverance, they learn that challenge seeking, they learn that resilience. Praising talent, praising intelligence makes them vulnerable. We also can change students' mindsets directly. In one study, we taught students that every time they pushed out of their comfort zone to learn something really, really hard and they stuck to it, the neurons in their brain could form new, stronger connections, and over time, they could become smarter. Those who learned this lesson showed a sharp increase in their grades. Those who did not showed a decrease. We have done this with thousands of students now across the country with similar results, especially for struggling students. We always thought adults with a growth mindset would create kids with a growth mindset. And it turns out that many adults with a growth mindset are not passing it on. In my lab, my graduate student and I are finding that many parents endorse a growth mindset. But if they react to their kids' failures or difficulties with anxiety, concern, those kids are not developing a growth mindset. But when they react to the kids' setbacks or failures as an interesting platform for learning, let's see what you did, let's see what we can do now, those are the kids who are developing a growth mindset. Students can have different perspectives on their intelligence, talents, and abilities. When they're in more of a fixed mindset, they believe their talents and abilities are just these fixed traits. They have a certain amount, and that's it. This makes them afraid of learning. They're so worried about looking smart and not looking dumb that they back off from challenging learning. But when they're in more of a growth mindset, they can forget about smart and dumb. They can focus on developing their abilities As a result, they take on challenges, they are more resilient in the face of setbacks, and they learn more. In one of our early studies, we took a bunch of students making that really difficult transition to 7th grade. Many of them were already showing declining scores, especially in math. Half of them were taught terrific and useful study skills, but the other half was taught a growth mindset with those study skills. They learned that when they stepped out of their comfort zone to do hard things and they stuck to them, the neurons in their brain could form new connections, stronger connections, and over time they could get smarter. This message was thrilling to the kids. And when we checked in on them at the end of the year, we found that the students who had just learned the useful study skills were continuing to show declining grades, especially in math. But those that had learned the growth mindset with their skills caught fire and showed a sharp rebound in their grades. What about a whole school or a whole community? A professor at the University of Washington went back to her Native American community where she grew up, and she created a whole growth mindset environment. She trained the teachers all summer how to teach kids their brains can grow, how to tailor their practices to convey that message. She made a TV show for the community's parents and worked with them as well. And when the kids showed up in the fall, they were told every day, because we care about you, we're going to spend 6 hours today growing your brain. They were immersed in this setting where everybody was committed to, devoted to, growing their brains. Now, this school on the reservation was traditionally at the bottom of the district. After a year to a year and a half of immersion in a growth mindset environment, the kindergartners and first graders in that district went to the top of the district. The older kids, the 3rd through 5th graders, many of them were gaining a year and a half to 2 years per year. Now, in today's world, learning doesn't stop at school. It doesn't stop in the classroom. In a recent study, we looked at a group of Fortune 500 companies, and what we found was that people were very easily able to say whether they were in a growth mindset company that valued everyone's development or a fixed mindset company, which was focused on talent. And what we found was that people in the growth mindset companies said they felt empowered to learn, innovate, and create. And the managers told us they saw much more potential among their young workers for learning, rising, becoming stars within the company. The irony is that in the fixed mindset companies, they're identifying the talent, buying the talent, grooming the talent. But a few years later, they didn't see those people blossoming to the same extent. Last year, I got a letter from a 13-year-old boy. He said, "Dear Professor Dweck, I decided to test out your growth mindset principles in 3 areas of my life. As a result, I'm earning higher grades. I have a better relationship with my parents. I have a better relationship with the other kids at school. I realize I've wasted most of my life. Let's not waste any more lives, because the more we know that basic human abilities can be grown, the more it becomes a basic human right for kids all kids, all adults, to live in environments that create that growth.